This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Bob, afternoon. How you doing, man?
How you guys doing? I'm good.
Good to hear from you today. You had a pretty interesting press conference yesterday afternoon. Tank Booker, Josh Braun, and who else was in on that yesterday? Tyrone Broden in on it, but they were kind of entertaining, a little bit different than the normal, we're getting the same answers.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I mean, obviously you go in there kind of thinking about asking, Josh Braun, like, how you fit in with the offensive line? Tank Booker, what do you think about the depth at the end? And Broden, what do you think about the receiver rotation, whatever? And they're all transfer guys, so it's all their first year. And but yeah, it just was interesting. I didn't realize that Scotty Bordelon had obviously done his research on Tank Booker, and he asked him about being an Eagle Scout. And it was funny. Josh Braun was sitting between them, and he turns to Booker, so I guess was sitting on his right, and said, "You were an Eagle Scout?" Because I mean that's not an easy thing to attain. I mean, you have to do a lot of do a lot of different things, and you probably have to help old ladies across the street, all that kind of stuff. But seriously, you have to know a lot of skills. And he said he was somebody he was really proud of, and his mom wanted to do it, and he'd been a Boy Scout. Something to me that I thought about. I mean, I was never smart enough or good enough to do all that stuff those guys do. And I think I was a Cub Scout maybe, but I didn't advance. And he said the toughest merit badge was swimming. That they had to do a bunch of different laps and different styles. But obviously, if you're going to be a Boy Scout, you might be a situation where you need to save somebody, from drowning or something. So, that's a good skill set to have. And Josh Braun, he was an interesting guy, very well spoken. They all were. He talked about going hiking and enjoying the outdoors here in Arkansas. I'm not saying offensive linemen aren't in good shape, but I just don't think of offensive linemen as being guys that go on hiking trails and go up in the mountains and all these things. And he said he just felt like, I think he said when the Rome do what the Romans do, he knows this is an outdoor state. And then Broden talked about going through a growth spurt, like growing from like 5'7" to 6'7" when he was younger. So just everybody had some good stories. It was kind of good to see their personalities come out a little bit.
Bob, how are you feeling after camp, and are you believing, Coach? Do you think this team really does get along, that they're kind of buddies off the field as well, and does that help the team, you think, winning games on Saturdays?
Yeah, I definitely think if you have good chemistry, that helps. Of course, we get limited amounts of practice, maybe 30 minutes, something like that, and we've gotten to interact with the guys. Like yesterday, I thought it was really fun talking to him, but I think it was maybe 12 minutes or something, so to take a ton away from that. But and of course everybody's undefeated right now, and everybody's feeling good and feeling confident. But last year, I mean, they went 7-6, so it wasn't like a total disaster. But obviously, the players and coaches and fans all had higher expectations. I know Sam Pittman addressed this in Little Rock that they just can't have another season where they lose 4 games by 9 points. You're going to play a lot of close games in the SEC, and you're maybe going to lose some of them. They got to win some too. I mean, think about it. Last year, if they split those 4 games, they're 8-4, and I think there's a totally different feeling about how the season turned out. And of course, I guess they also beat Kansas. We're not counting the Kansas game in there. They won that except there were some bad calls at the end of that Pac-12 crew. That's another thing, but. Yeah, they seem to get along well. I thought something Sam said yesterday. He appeared at Hogs Illustrated Sports Club, and he talked about how I guess it was Jaden Wilson had taken a fall and hurt himself, thankfully, and that the DBs a big hit. They were all concerned about their teammate on the other side of the ball. Is he okay? How's he doing? And so that's not just lip service. That's really showing that they care about each other. Because there's I've seen this on Arkansas teams. I'm sure it happens on other teams where, yeah, if a defensive player made a big play and it maybe resulted in hurting a teammate. Not that they're out there to hurt a teammate, but they're more concerned about celebrating what they did than they're concerned for a teammate. So I thought that was a pretty telling statement he said.
So many people look at a team that might have lost 4 games by a total of 9 points and say, well, they were that close. but there were too many deficiencies to be a team that would win 4 games by 9 points, and that's why you see a remade defense. That's why you see a remade defensive coaching staff. Sam Pittman wasn't sitting on the idea of we were unlucky. It was the way the ball bounced and all of those things. You got to improve. Where do you think this team is most improved upon last year?
Well, I would say probably the defensive line. And not that I thought, they had bad defensive linemen last year. They had some good ones, and they had a lot of sacks. But I just, think they have a lot of talent. They have a lot of depth. They have a lot of experience. I mean, you look at the end spots. I mean, one of the reasons I know probably drove fans nuts at times that they do the 3-man rush and the 3-man down lineman and drop, 5, 6, maybe 7 guys into coverage. But, part of that was Barry Odom's scheme and wanting to make the quarterbacks throw into coverage. Part of it was, honestly, I think just the deficiency of depth on the defensive line. And so Deke Adams has gone out there and done a really good job of changing his room, as Sam Pittman would put it. It was interesting. Deke Adams honestly had a long stretch of turnover in the defensive line room and coaches. Deke Adams is back for his second year. And he's the first defensive line coach in Sam Pittman's 4 seasons to come back for his second year. And Sam talked about how you got to change the room, meaning recruiting. And so they brought in, Crazy Jeff coach from Missouri. He's got a lot of SEC experience, obviously, at Missouri. They brought in Tank Booker from Maryland, played in the Big Ten. They brought in John Morgan from Pittsburgh, where he played in the ACC, played on an ACC championship team, that played I think it was Michigan State, and was it the Orange Bowl or I can't remember, Peach Bowl a couple of years ago. So these are guys with some big-time experience. And, of course, we know about Landon Jackson coming in from LSU, and he's really changed his body. And so you feel like they've got talent there. They've got good depth. They've got good experience. And so I think the defensive line and then probably the secondary, they've hit the portal hard. They brought in guys who played at Baylor like, Snacks Jansen and Al Walcott, and they brought in, Jaheim Singletary from Georgia. So they're bringing in guys, from Big 12 and SEC programs, guys that are used to winning. And obviously, the pass defense, we know what an issue that was, and Sam alluded to it in kind of a funny line at the Little Rock Touchdown Club about how, they brought in, Marcus Woodson from Florida State, and they ranked 7th in pass defense, and then he kind of sniffed and said, we, meaning Arkansas, finished last year. He didn't say where. I'd have to look it up. It was probably about 129th or 130th. It was really bad. And so he's kind of joking, but obviously that was a big issue last year, and that's one of the reasons they only won 7 games and were only 6-6 in regular season. So I'd say the 2 spots are the defensive line and the secondary.
Bob, you're right on. We were 130th last year in passing, and that has to get better. And I, looking at this Western Carolina team, you don't see anything on them. I mean, we're going to be 4 touchdown favorites in this game. And that being said, what do you want to see week 1? Is there one offensive player you want to watch, or who are you most excited to get to see play September 2nd when we take on Western Carolina?
I guess Luke Haas, the freshman tight end who very heavily recruited at Alabama, tried to flip him, and he's been getting a ton of first-team reps in camp, at least the part we've seen. He's been running with the starters. Nathan Bax was really their one experienced tight end. Ty Washington had a little bit of experience last year. He got a touchdown pass in the Liberty Bowl, but he was able to preserve his red shirt. But, the coaches and the teammates just rave about Luke. Really goes back, Dan Enos talked about how, of course, Dan got here in the spring just like Luke did, and he said, I'm paraphrasing here, but he said something like, I thought, has this guy been here 3 years? Oh, yeah, he just got here just like I did. And so talking about how he's like having another wide receiver out there in terms of his ability to run routes, catch passes. He seems like a pretty physical player. And so he's a guy. I kind of had to laugh. The coaches put out their all-SEC teams earlier this week, and they had a first-team tight end, a second-team tight end, and 4 guys tied for third-team tight end, including Trey Knox at South Carolina, who played here. And wish Trey the best, really good guy. But I'm thinking in postseason, Luke Haas is going to be getting some of those all-SEC honors. So he's a guy I definitely want to see if what he's been doing in practice impresses everybody so much, translates to a game. And, obviously you expect he and all these guys to dominate Western Carolina. No offense to them. But I think he could be a big-time player based on, what we've seen and heard.
Bob, today's the last time you'll speak to anybody at Arkansas football until next Monday. It's Sam Pittman after practice, and then Coach Pittman again on Monday. What can you ask Sam Pittman that he already hasn't been asked in camp?
I don't know, because Sam talked Tuesday in Little Rock, and then he talked Wednesday here, and then he has a radio show last night, so I just hope he didn't talk out. But I know they were supposed to put in the installation, start installing Western Carolina game plan on Wednesday, and so I know Western Carolina and Alabama, but you hope they'd be excited to start working on an opponent and kind of get out of camp mode. But I guess maybe how's the install doing, and I guess we can ask about the air conditioning again. That going. They need to get, I don't know. I guess it's like anything else, right? If you ever get anything done at your house, it always seems to take longer than. But just how I know he feels good about this team, and I think Sam by nature is an optimistic person. But I don't think he's just blowing smoke up. Everybody's. I think he generally feels good about this team, the changes they made. And he kind of jokes in Little Rock. He wasn't going to fire himself, but he had to make some other changes. And he also had something I thought he said that was really interesting is that, and Sam's a very likable. I mean, he's very outgoing, but he also is the CEO of a big organization, University of Arkansas football, and he has a CEO approach. He doesn't call plays, and he's a great recruiter. I think he puts the staff together. He obviously sets the tone for the team. But he's kind of like, a CEO-type coach. Some guys are like that, and some guys want to be play callers or whatever. And he talked about how he wanted to always be liked by everybody. And when he found out being in a leadership role is you can't do that. Not that you go out of your way to, upset people or be rude or whatever, but that sometimes you have to make hard decisions that are going to make people mad at you, and you just have to live with that. And but you got to do what's best for everybody, even if that might upset, this particular person. I thought that was a pretty telling thing he said.
Bob, do you think this year, last year maybe we were a little snake bit, but do you think that we had, just the fumble at the A&M going in, not getting the fourth down at Liberty? Do you think this year we can win the turnover battle?
Yeah, I mean, last year Arkansas got a lot of sacks, and of course Barry Odom's teams were known for getting turnovers. But you look at some of the playmakers they have, of course, getting Dwight McLaughlin back, cornerback was a big deal. He was a first-team pick by the coaches. Obviously, that's preseason, but that's an indication of the respect he has in the league. And, I think these guys are going to be able to put pressure on the quarterback and with rushing four people most of the time. That we know Travis Williams has been known to blitz a little bit. And so I think, obviously the more pressure you can put on that quarterback, the better chance you have he's going to make a mistake, either fumble it or throw up. Yeah, I think this team could definitely turn over. You win the turnover battle more often than not, you're going to win the game.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.